Okay, so today I will discuss a few things or topics from articles that I've read over the few weeks to give you like an overview of what topics I plan to discuss. First is about what are the different ways AI is being used by consumers or the end user applications. Two such examples is ChatGPT Health and a story about AI bias in hiring. Secondly, you can talk about some friction or commercial friction between the platform providers, which is the AI providers, and the developers or the software developers who are using this AI platforms. We can maybe also go through some open weights versus closed model debates and some regulation topics as well. So, starting with ChatGPT Health. So it is integrated into ChatGPT, and it is, from what I know, it is available only in US in across all the different tiers of subscription that they have, and it aggregates data from different fitness channels like the Apple Health, My Fitness Pal, and other kinds of softwares. And also official medical records are also used for data aggregation. And they say it has so they can so initially they released it as a separate hub, dedicated hub for ChatGPT Health, but they found that most or like 70% of the query is happening in the general ChatGPT application itself. So then they integrated this ChatGPT Health into the entire app instead of a separate app, and it is powered by GPT 5.6, and it outperforms GPT 5.5 on Health Bench. This is some kind of I don't know what kind of benchmark it is, but it supposedly is better than 5.5, which you'd assume it is. And they also say they are not using user data for training, but I don't know how much we can trust that statement. Health data itself is any kind of data is sensitive. People don't want to share any kind of information with AI as a whole, but health data in particular is even more uh, sensitive, and the answer to your health queries could be detrimental to your health. So one of the example was that some pastor in Florida, he had a conversation with ChatGPT, and the suggestion from ChatGPT was that he should not visit the doctor, which if he had followed that advice, it could have been fatal for him. So he filed a lawsuit. I don't know what's the status of that lawsuit now, but this is a point that is important to note. But the defense that ChatGPT or any AI companies can give is that their terms of service clearly mentions that it is not intended for use in the diagnosis or treatment of any health conditions. So you are using the application knowing that this is mentioned in their terms of service. So they are not liable to what you do, uh, or whatever you decide to do after having a chat with ChatGPT or any other AI platform. It is not their responsibility. And people don't usually go through or don't read these kinds of terms and condition, terms of services, or whatever kind of documentation they have. But they have it's similar to what how people complain about the data privacy with Google and stuff. But Google will explicitly mention whenever you create a Google account or use their Google services that what your data is going to be used for. If you then want to use Google services, you will have to agree to their terms of services. You cannot choose to complain that my data is not private anymore. Similarly, here they have clearly mentioned they are not liable. And once you use their product and make a decision, Based on that, you cannot complain. At least from a legal point of view, they are trying to safeguard themselves this way. But yeah, so just because people are, there's a chance of legal action, other AI companies are not slowing down. There's also apparently one product from Anthropic, it's called Claude for healthcare, and even Google. I think they a few weeks back they released their own uh, Fitbit kind of wristwatch, smartwatch for fitness watch, similar to Whoop, and so they're going to be getting a lot of data from that, and Google's AI is going to be used for that as well. So yeah, that is so basically it about this story. Maybe I haven't checked these two products. Maybe you can just have a quick look at what this is. Suite of HIPAA-ready AI tools and database connectors launched by Anthropic to help hospitals ensure peers, life science companies, and patients process medical data safely. It connects Claude AI model to official health repositories while keeping personal data private and secure. Wait, distinct enterprise-grade ecosystem launched to compete directly in the medical sector. Both offer high-tier privacy safeguard and compliance and stuff. OpenAI splits its approach into ChatGPT for healthcare for enterprise and ChatGPT Health is for everyday consumers. I think ChatGPT Health is more consumer facing, whereas Claude for healthcare is more enterprise facing. Just like, I mean, they push Claude more or less for the enterprises more. So maybe that is the difference. Yeah, I think, I don't know if this works. Does it work? Does not work. Anyway, let's look at one of their marketing kind of video. Okay, so the only difference I feel with compared to normal kind of questions is that if you could ask these questions already to ChatGPT and it would give you some answer if you had also given it the data. Now they have just made it easier to collect the health data from you, and so it can give more accurate answers if you ask any health related queries. I think that's the only difference. So, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, even I was thinking that most of it is just the same thing, but it's like asking questions on a notebook LM. Like which now is called Gemini Notebook. But uh,
Yeah.
it's like the same thing, but you just uh, limit the sources. Like you can't give generic answers. You have to give your answers based on only these sources. So yes, this is what is like in essence, the big picture is this thing, like it
Hmm.
will give the answer based on your personal health data. That's the thing.
Yeah. But again, so there's the hallucination thing, and given that these are like predictive text generation models, I even if we give even in notebook LM, even if you limit the sources, it sometimes hallucinates. Like you have shown a few examples as well once.
Yes.
So in those kind of things, if other number, financial numbers, etc., it's okay. We can uh, absorb some kind of hallucination, but the health data, it's like it's even more critical. So there's no scope of hallucination at all, or there should not be. So I don't know how widespread uh, this is going to be, or the use of this going to be, or how accurate the answers are going to get. But it's something to be seen.
Yes, even actually, yes, that's the main concern right now about how accurate those things are. And uh, as much as people are saying that uh, people won't require, like they are replacing jobs, so your skills doesn't matter. So I think the main skill is now to verify and proofread what their answers, the answers that they're giving, and to make sure how accurate those are. And uh, it's like you have to have the subject matter knowledge for to interpret those kind of things. So even though it is for consumers, but like most people are not that educated in terms of medical health and the language about it. So they may not be able to interpret those kind of data.
Yeah,
So it is going to be tough in terms of
yeah. I
its
think
accuracy.
in the time for the time being, at least it has to be uh, double checked by some doctors or something, or at least people if they want to. But mm, given that it is consumer facing, people are not obligated to go to a doctor with these answers. They can just do whatever. So the risk of liability to the company is higher if you're marketing it as a for like in the terms of service they have mentioned it is not intended to use in the diagnosis or treatment of a health condition. I don't know if it is for the ChatGPT Health or the previous terms of services. But if in the new product itself is called ChatGPT Health, and in the terms of services it is mentioned it is not used intended for use for those kind of situations, then what is it really used for? What is it the need?
It could be like to get a second, I'm not kind of a second opinion, but to just understand on your own before going to the doctors. Or like, yes, that could be one of the ways. Like it could be useful for people who are more health conscious and who has people who have more understanding about health, but they're not professional doctors. So they might even after consulting doctors, they might also try and understand their own thing from their own. So for those kind of people, it might be also some help,
Yeah,
some sense.
so there has to be like you have to build a baseline knowledge of what the data means. For example, if you're monitoring your blood pressure, you have to know what is the ideal range to have to be in. So just by having the numbers and asking ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will give you something. But if you don't know what that means, so in that sense, I think there has to be some baseline knowledge that people need to have in order. And I think people who are curious about this will end up acquiring that knowledge. But yeah, okay,
Again,
yeah.
I'll just say one thing in short. Like this has all made me think about this thing about. This whole idea of is there a point of like there talks about like is there a point of school, college, or anything? Because if AI takes over all the job, then what's the point of education or anything? But this is all because people always thought about education from an economic point of view. Like, am I going to make money by learning this thing? Like, what's the point of learning this thing if I can't? If I am I going to get a job, make money
Yeah.
from that point of view? But from and that's how most of the people go to school, like schools, colleges with that intention. But for most of human history, education has never been about getting a job or anything. Like it's I think it's I'm sure it's a very recent phenomena because for most of human history, like if you had to get a job, most you just go to the person, like whatever skills, like if you are going to be a carpenter, if you want to be whatever, you just become a apprentice and learn that skill and do those things. So that's a very skill specific job. Okay, you want to do this thing? Yes, you just learn this thing. Those scholarly things, like people who went to colleges, like in universities back in those times, those were those people went there for like philosophical inquiries, not philosophical, but like to understand things, not just like, okay, I'm going to university, I'm going to get this degree, and this degree is going to get me help a job. That is not the idea for most of human history. It was to learn about things. So I think, assuming like if AI does take over all of the jobs, so I think that is what again things are going to be like. You have to learn because you to develop the knowledge, not to get a job something. So
Yeah.
and that knowledge is going to help you interpret those things. I think, and that's like it's not going to be optional. You'll have to know this. Otherwise, this gap will become more and more because if AI can do all the jobs or like all the work, what's left for you is to interpret what the output of the AI is, and for that you need to have the knowledge. So that's the thing I think.
But now people are also using AI itself to learn things, right?
Yes, yes, definitely they are using AI to learn things. I mean, as a tool, that's one thing to learn, but to what I'm saying is to be able to interpret certain things. Like,
So then I think we have to also interpret the output of the AI when we are learning from it.
exactly. I mean, when I say learning in the sense,
Like people sometimes, I see it tweets and stuff. People will use or people will generate some like a curriculum from AI and get the content by prompting AI for all the curriculums and stuff. So the output of the entire learning process is from the AI, not from any traditional source. So you're not watching any courses or not reading any books. You're relying entirely on the AI to teach you about a particular topic. So we are putting heavy trust that everything it gave us output is correct, and our knowledge is now what the AI gave us.
yeah, I think yeah, if you look, if you are saying from that point of view, then that is I think dangerous because I think it is good up to the point if you directly put the book as the source material and say that only answer from this point of view, not just use generic ChatGPT and start asking questions. Um, if that is how people are learning, like creating courses and learning, then I think that is dangerous because it can hallucinate all sorts of things, and because you are not an expert or maybe you do not have prior education in that field, you can't tell whether it's correct or not correct. But if it's a book, even then there are chances of hallucination. But I think there is more chances of being you being able to cross verify things because you might ask that okay which page or which paragraph did you ask it. So yes, that could be done. But directly, if you create course from like an AI chatbot and start learning, that could be dangerous.
Mhm. Okay. Then talking about jobs. Next topic or story is about simulation of hiring. So some researchers at some university, I think Princeton, University of Chicago, they used the top LLMs, so ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, DeepSeek, etc., where they experimented by adapting human psychology. So they gave the AI a role of a AI of a consultant, and it was given by a fictional mayor in a fictional city. And the task of the AI consultant was to fill 20 distinct job types. So there are 20 different types of jobs, ranging from like doctors to janitors, and the hiring took place in across 40 rounds. So each round there were four candidates, and these candidates were represented by fictional ethnic groups. So they gave some ethnicity, but these are fictional. So they've mentioned Tufa, Aima, Reku, Weki, and after each round of hiring, the humans they gave the feedback to the AI of whether the job or whether the person they hired did the job correctly or not. But there was a baseline that the AI consultant did not know that every candidate from every group had a 50-50 probability. So like everyone was had the equal probability of doing all the jobs as successfully as anyone else in this particular simulation. So then some patterns that they saw was that the AI would rapidly stereotype. So, for example, in one round out of four, they picked one, and he, as a doctor, let's say, and he did not, and he belonged to one of the ethnic group, let's say Reku. So then that person did not do the job of a doctor very well. So in the next rounds, they developed a bias on their own that the Reku person should not be given a job of a doctor. So they immediately started forming stereotypes within. They were not given this data, so the AI model came up with this stereotype by themselves. So that is why they're calling it novel bias. So I think in the second point is mentioned about systemic biases. So if a model observed a single IMA candidate fail as a doctor, it stopped recommending IMAs for medical jobs. So it would systematically assign them to lower status roles like janitors. And because the stereotypes were created on the fly by the models during the task itself and not given or not part of the training data, so they were calling it a novel bias because the AI came up with this bias on its own. And they found that the model seems to segregate worse than humans. So there are some numbers, yes, I don't know exactly the significance or the meaning of the numbers, but apparently there's a some psychological scale where 2.0 indicates what does it indicate? Indicates how much we are likely to, I guess, to segregate people into specific job niche or whatever. And humans usually score an average of 0.84, and OpenAI's O3 was scoring 1.83 in terms of segregating based on biases. So they found basically models are more prone to segregate based on bias than humans in this experiment. Some of the logic or analysis or reasoning given behind this is one of it is math and science optimizations. So LLMs are optimized mostly heavily on math, coding, and science data, and these are domains where if you make quick generalizations from limited information, then you are rewarded because you are able to make the generalization faster. And this exact phenomenon or tendency of LLMs to generalize is acting against the desired output here. So this exact optimization feature that makes LLMs very good at logical reasoning, science, math, code, etc., is detrimental or it is negative outcome when it comes to this kind of social stereotypes. So it is with minimal data, it is stereotyping a social situation. They tried some things to fix the bias, but certain things failed. So, for example, what failed was if you specifically ask the AI to be fair or avoid prejudice in their work, it failed. It did not adhere to that prompt. The desire to optimize their output was higher when it in terms compared to the uh, request to be fair. But what worked is that if you give the AI consultant, or if you mention that if you hire diversively, we will give you a bonus. So then it preferred diversified hiring, which I think somewhat funny because of all these liberal movements of DEI and stuff, right? Which we see in real world. The AI also seems to, if we give the incentive that if you hire diversively, there is going to be an explicit bonus to you. The AI seems to prefer to hire diversively, like, and it reduces segregation. And if job relevant information is given about the candidate, then it stops ethnic sorting. So their education and stuff. But if we provide irrelevant details, the examples mentioned are like tattoos, hair color, then it again goes back into the pattern of rapid segregation. So that was the experiment, and these are kind of the results they found. Some risks and other stuff they mentioned is that if people or any company started relying on AI memory for optimizing hiring, so if the bias perpetuates in the memory, then over time the segregation is going to get worse, is my understanding, based on the patterns of how AI learns and how it stores memory. Once the patterns of segregation gets into its memory, uh, it is going to continue inventing stereotypes, and it will compound over time. Yeah, I don't remember the second point. Anyways, do you have what are your thoughts on this study?
Yes. First of all, you mentioned that in the data, no biases were mentioned. So, what data do you mean? The initial training data, that means the AI was
By
trained in by,
I mean, they're using this LLMs, so it has its training data, right?
yes.
Whatever training data it has. On top of it, we have created. I'm not sure of the exact mechanism of how they did the study, but my understanding is that the bias that for in this the bias like here okay, in the training data, it is not nowhere mentioned that any particular ethnic group is better in being a doctor than the other one. And like it is mentioned in also in the fourth point, that the model does not know, but all the candidates that are up for hiring have the same probability of doing a successful job in any of the jobs. So you can hire anyone as a doctor, they will do a good job. You can hire anyone as a what is it called, a janitor, they will do a good job. So then they conduct this simulation, and in one of the rounds, four candidates are there. The AI will select on some basis. I don't know. They have not. I don't know if they mentioned this, but on the first round, on some basis, they will select one person for a particular role. Suppose a doctor, and that person is of the IMA caste, or what's the term, caste, ethnic group. But and once they have selected this particular candidate, the humans will give the feedback to the AI that the person you selected did not do a good job of being a doctor. Then
Yeah.
it will on its own start stereotyping all the people who are of the ethnic group of IMA and not give them the role of a doctor anymore in the future hiring roles. So this bias of not selecting AMA for future candidates for the doctor role came on its own. It was not part of the training data, is
Okay.
my understanding at least.
Okay. Understood. So
Yeah,
I
and like
think
the reasoning they've given is because basically they are trying to optimize with limited information.
yes, I think even that's what I was thinking. Like, okay, they're trying to find a pattern. Like, uh, okay, means that it's a logically less computationally intensive thing to do. Like, okay, if I got a feedback that someone from IMA is a bad candidate, so next time if I get someone from IMA, it will be easier for me as an LLM to, instead of going again like evaluating everything, like let's assume and anyone from IMA is this.
Yeah. So exactly that is what they're mentioning. So in terms of math, science, and other kinds of optimization tasks, this kind of pattern is useful. But when you're applying AI or this kind of the limitations that AI have now into societal tasks, where human or where judgment can change from each individual person to person, you cannot just afford to optimize like that. You will end up creating stereotypes. Is I think the point of this story. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if, as you mentioned, if the data doesn't provide this kind of thing, so that means it's a feature of the algorithm itself. That means it is in a way trying to mimic the human, not through data, but through the whole algorithm. Because even humans, the whole idea, I think, about stereotyping is to, it's a less computationally intensive, I mean, from a brain point of view, maybe it's less energetic process of coming to a conclusion about anything, about a person or anything. Like if you know a person from a certain community behaves certain way, so it's easier for you to like assume, okay, if any other person comes from that community, they will behave that similar way instead of going through the whole effort of trying to know that person, what's its personality like, is it good or bad.
Hmm.
Let's just use our previous knowledge to do this.
Yeah,
So
but the
they
difference is that humans maybe individually will form biases or stereotypes, but societally, culturally, we will be in different situations will be forced to let go of our biases or rethink our biases that we come up with. But there is no I don't know, at least for now, there's no self-correcting mechanism in the AI to correct their own bias. For example, in this example, if they have once created the stereotype, I don't know how they can go back and
correct it.
rechange,
Yes.
correct their bias, which is a pattern we can see in humans. If there is a bias that is negatively affecting others, other people will tell us that we should change our thinking. I don't know how that mechanism can work in AIs.
Yes, I think currently they don't. It seems like from this example that I mentioned, I don't think they have this system of correcting that existing bias.
Even first of all, they have to recognize there's a bias and they have to identify it is a negative bias or a positive bias, which, and who is going to give that judgment at either at the end of the day, it is like a moral judgment of whether something is a good stereotype to have or bad stereotype or good generalization, bad generation in terms of society or societal situations. Because, for example, if you're hiring for a boxing match, suppose, and you will have strict hiring, let's say, criteria. You want two strong human beings of similar skill set. But if you try to diversify and create the stereotype, I- it you may end up hiring someone who is not really up to the same level as the other person. I'm not sure if this example is really that useful or correct, but certain kind of situations, you biases are not really, or stereotypes are not useful, and you should let go of stereotypes when certain situations stereotypes end up helping. Maybe in military, suppose you're hiring for military, you will hire stereotypically strong, hard-minded people. That's a stereotype, and it's, I think, useful to have the stereotype. In a corporate kind of environment, maybe judging someone based on that aspect is not really useful. I don't know if that makes sense. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I understand what you're trying to say. Uh,
Yeah.
but in general, I think that in the current world that we live in, like stereotypes are only useful for quick decisions, and especially not for hiring of any kind of decisions. It ideally it should not be there for any kind of areas, but at least for quick decisions. Like suppose you're walking alone at night, if you see a person, maybe he would tall person with long beard or something like this. So it's in that case, okay, it's safe to assume like maybe he's a good person. Most likely he's a good person, but it's rather safe to assume that maybe he's harmful and walk the other way. Those kind of situations, okay, it's fine. But I think when you're specifically like when you're hiring, I don't think like you should, I'm talking about humans here. Like there should not be any biases in that place in any ways. And because this is a serious thing you're doing. You're not trying to do a mental shortcut. Okay, yeah, tall person like this person, I'm going to hire you. Short person, go away. Like this is how, and specifically those are done by recruiters. Your whole job is that thing. If you just cut corners by just doing hiring based on biases, that means you're not doing your job properly. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's the point. Uh, okay, so finally, one thing, since I'm talking about this, one more point I might want to make about, again, this is not from an AI point of view, from just humans. So, uh, I think actually it's true, like people use uh, certain kinds of stereotypes or shortcuts. So it's one thing that you mentioned, or this AI falling into this trap, and I think in reality, most humans do this too. Like they fall through, they use this kind of shortcuts to filter candidates and for whatever reasons. But what's the point I'm trying to make here? The point I'm trying to make is that it's a shortcut that humans are using, and I think that is and and that's a suboptimal thing to do. Like for example, I think the better way to think is for people, whoever the role that they're hiring for, the person who is actually working in that role should know like what are the qualities required for that person to be good at that job. Like for example, the role that you are working on. Suppose you are asked to for a technical interview. Okay, so you're either okay. You have to. We have a few candidates. You have to technically you have to talk to them, interview them, and try to know whether they're good enough for the job, for the exact same role that you are doing. So for that, the best thing is that you know what the job requires, and talking to this versus plus you might also give them some assignments like okay, do this assignment in 2 days, 3 days, and show me. By doing this, you will know like what this person is capable of doing or not doing. You don't have to like I think that is more than enough. Like I will not even look at what color, like any other aspect of that person. Like that is just a person, gender, color, age, nothing has to be. I want to even look at those things. Like I'll talk to that person, I'll look at their work and make a judgment about how what are they doing. The fact that people are using those kind of stereotypes, one of the I think the reason is that people are hiring for roles that they themselves do not directly do. So that's a suboptimal way of doing things. That's what I'm trying to
Mm.
say.
Yeah. Um, can I think move to next point?
Okay.
Uh, yeah, so this is a mix of different uh, points I found. So, oh, where do I start for this? Hmm. So we have been probably seeing some news regarding Fable. Then also recently Kimi K3 came out and such. So having those kind of news as a context, one of the friction points that are developing in the market between this platform providers, the AI providers, and other people or enterprises even using this um, platforms are one of the first example is about the labs or the AI companies themselves coming up with competing products of their partners. So, for example, Anthropic has Claude Design, which does similar work to what Figma does, but Figma is also one of their enterprise partners. So there seems to be some clash, or you can say clash between a competitive clash between the providers and the partners themselves. So they seem to be complaining like uh, we as a partner we are a partner to your AI product, so we are specifically paying you, and at the end top of that you are also creating a competitor to us, taking market share from away from us. So for them it also almost becomes like a lose-lose kind of situations. uh, so yeah, from the point of view of Figma I can see their complaint, but from a free market capitalistic point of view, if cloud design is useful and people accept it in the market, should this be seen as what is that anti-competition laws are there, right? What is it called?
Antitrust laws.
Antitrust, yeah. So does this kind of situation also come up in antitrust? Antitrust, like what do you think?
I don't think so. If I think the only thing questionable thing would be like, are they using Figma's data to create their own products? And do they have some legally have they clarified those kind of terms and conditions or not? I don't think in any ways it comes under antitrust kind of laws, but it comes under like legally, are you using the data legally or illegally to create those kind of products? I think that's the
So
only question that would
antitrust
come.
is there for so that there doesn't exist monopolies, right?
Yes, yes.
So then why does Google, when Google has the dominant search platform, they had gone through a lot of antitrust lawsuits, but then their product is better than the other products. So that is why it is the dominant one. Why does it have to go through antitrust lawsuit?
Well, I mean, I'm not very much well versed into the whole point about those things, but even I understand the logic behind this. Like, if you can't have any product gain a lot of market share because it then becomes monopoly, and the property of monopoly is that it has price power. Like, it can set the prices. The price taker versus price setter, those kind of things exist. Like, if you are a monopoly, you can set the prices. But if it's in a perfectly competitive market, like, you cannot decide the price. Like, for example, like perfectly competitive markets include things like soaps, toothpaste. So in that case, you can't decide what price is going to be. Whatever is the market price, you'll have to settle for that price. Your profit will come by trying to make the whole manufacturing process smooth, like more optimized so that your margins are higher, like the cost of doing things are higher. So that at the same price, you are getting less cost and making the profits. But if you are a monopoly, you can set the prices because you have no competition. And that
Mm.
means you cannot your whole like you don't have an incentive to further optimize the your products or services. Like there's the theoretical idea behind not trying to have a monopoly. But in terms of practice, yes, Google does have, and they have not been broken down or anything. They still exist. So I don't know how exactly it works. This is something that needs to be looked
Yeah,
into.
yeah. So I also don't have much knowledge on this point, but maybe it would be interesting to look into that.
Yes. But anyways, at this point, I don't think it is not a matter of the antitrust or monopoly in any case. It's just two companies trying to create a better product.
Hmm. Okay. The next point is about aggressive censorship. So I have not used those models, but apparently even the newer uh, Anthropic's Claude models are showing are constrained in their output, so they will sometimes refuse to answer, uh, or they will not give proper answer to some queries, like, and it will not create certain things and such and so on. So I don't have the details, but the overall picture is that compared to before, there seems to be more censorship in the output now, and that seems to, yeah, that is of course going to be an issue for people using. So the prices of these models are not going down. Maybe they are even increasing. But and even if they are powerful, the output is not. If it is not satisfactory, if it is refusing to answer certain things, or it is not answering to the expectations, we can say like their performance has degraded, even though they are technically more intelligent uh, models. So that is, yeah, I have not dived deep in details of what kind of censorship it is, it is not, what is it refusing to answer. But overall, this seems to be the pattern. And also data retention. Okay, I don't know to which AI models it applies. Does it apply to all countries, or is it US specific, or so on? But there seems to be a request. I probably think it is US specific, but there seems to be a request from the request that there should be a 30-day log, at minimum a 30-day log of all the chat history of the models. So you cannot choose to even not use your data to. So like you had the option to choose to not store your data at all, but it seems like there's that option is not no longer there, and at least for 30 days your data has to be there. And I'm not sure if it applies for enterprise alone, or is it for consumers also, but that is one of the points. And distillation double standard and intelligence duopoly. Okay, so distillation again, for Kimi Guthrie also there was allegations of distillation. And also once previously when I talked about distillation, I talked about one of the arguments from the public was that Anthropic or any company now, closed AI model company, cannot just complain about distillation when they essentially distilled the entirety of the internet's data for free, without giving credit, or without any kinds of compensation to anyone. And now they are crying over Chinese models distilling their models. I think the maybe you can think of it from the point of view of the economics of a company. So they have this very strong, powerful model, mythos or fable or whatever, and they have created this fear or PR around this model. It is a very high, very dangerous. It has dangerous capabilities, and so on. So it has limited reach. We have there. There was a ban. Then they had to reduce its capacity and release it again. But then all of a sudden, this open source model comes up, which has like 90 to 95% of that same capacity, but it is open source and open weight. So from an investor's point of view, do you think it is risky? Like on one hand, you have the closed source company whose entire valuation is being decided by the fact that they have this very strong model that even the US government is scared to release it openly to the public. And if you want access to it, these are the like price ranges of you need to have access to the highest uh, model tier of highest tier subscription. But all of a sudden, this open weight model comes up, and for a fraction of the cost, people get access to the same level of intelligence, or maybe slightly less. So does it not devaluate the product that they were trying to hype up the valuation for?
Yes, exactly. It does devalue the product. I think I previously mentioned like since both Anthropic and OpenAI are trying to IPO and uh, this year, maybe early next year. So the initially like prior to Kimi K3's launch, they might had some valuations in mind. The valuation, like what I heard was just that they're targeting 1 trillion valuation. But now, as you all know, like a free model can, like an open source model can do almost 90 to 95% of what they're doing. So how do you justify 1 trillion? So definitely their valuation will come down. Like they cannot justify asking that high amount of valuation. And the second thing is that there was always this doubt, like whether it is a genuinely like so high intelligent model that it's a threat versus is it just a PR thing. I think this proves that it was mostly a PR thing. Okay, I agree that okay, maybe it's better than the existing model, like it's the top tier model. But the way it was hype around, like it can like destroy humanity if it's left open. So first of all, if it's so there are certain ways that you can infer. The first one is the obvious thing, like Kimi K3, like 95% capability for free is for everyone. So it doesn't mean that it's that dangerous. The second thing is, if it is actually that dangerous, if it is actually that dangerous, then why would you even give to someone like, okay, if it, that means they're saying it is very dangerous, but if you give us uh, a high amount of money, we'll give it to you anyways. What's the
Mhm.
logic in that? If it's dangerous, you shouldn't give it to anyone at any cost. But you're no, you're giving it. It's the classical marketing technique. Like if you just see like uh, this fear, creating this FOMO in most website. Once you click the website, like 95% off, but the clock starts like in 24 hours. This 95% off is going to go down. If you want to buy it now, you buy it now. So I think
No.
it's such a cheap technique to convince you to buy this thing, and which has been like like being exposed by Kimi K3. It was just a cheap marketing move from them. But
Mhm.
mostly, I think it is like I think from the very beginning they started with this marketing plan of like we are going to create this kind of certain image about ourselves, like we are somehow not this evil company like chasing profit and those kind of things. No, we are only enterprise. We are concerned about safety. We want to use it for goodwill. That is the whole marketing strategy, this brand strategy behind them. That's the whole way they're approaching this thing.
Yeah. Okay. I have nothing more to add to this. We'll go to the other point about we are talking about this. We have the discussion about open weights versus closed model. Let's see what this open weighted talk is. Also, I think I don't know the details, but I think there's a difference between open source and open weights model. So I
Yes.
think Kimi K3 is open weights. I don't know if it's open source. So if you use the tokens or API, I think you still have to pay, but it is I think very less. Also, I don't know the numbers, but yeah, there's a difference. I'll have to check that. But anyways, so if you have open weights, like theoretically, like you will have better. It's a democratized model, so more people have access to doing AI innovations. Uh, and I think even now, Mark Zuckerberg also was coming up and saying like, yeah, we should not. I think you talked about banning or US might ban open source models, and I think multiple different tech CEOs and stuff are coming up and saying there should not be a need to ban any open source models. Even the CEO of Anthropic is saying like he's not against open weights model, but I think he has some arguments or whatever. But yeah, like I think since like Mark Zuckerberg's Meta models are not really the top of the line when it comes to AI models, and I think most of what he has released is open source only. So it makes sense he is a proponent of open source or open weight models. But I don't see like people who are actually winning or have the top AI models and they are closed source. They don't seem to be too much a proponent of the open weight models as much. Yeah, but for the closed model, their argument again is safety, privacy, those kind of things. That if you have open weights, anyone have can have access to these highly intelligent models. So you cannot, if they have bad intentions, they can carry out their actions if they have access to this. But if closed model, there are more safety guardrails and so on, etc., etc. But uh, I don't know how, like, if I am paying for a closed model, I can use it for whatever. They will have some guardrails, of course. Like, I cannot ask it to just create a bomb. It will not create a bomb for me or give me the formula or whatever. But so this kind of guardrails can also be in the weights of the open weight models. It will be easier to jailbreak them if someone has the knowledge because the weights are open. But I have also seen articles at least where people have jailbroken even closed source models to answer things it doesn't want to answer. So I don't know how well this argument is valid. Yeah, don't have much other points regarding to this. What are your thoughts on open weights versus closed model?
Yes. Talking about the thing that you talk about, this protecting the rest of the people. I think that's a very, again, another very cheap way of defending themselves. I mean, like they are businesses. Their point is to sell products. And again, the dream, the fantasy of every business, at the very least, is that the one product they're selling, they want to have the 100% total monopoly about on that thing. So
Yeah.
if anyone has that, that means that's bad news. And the worst news is like it's open, anyone can have that. So they'll try to justify their thing. It's like going to a gym trainer and says that, man, I know you can do it by yourself, but if you choose me as your gym trainer, I can optimize your thing. But if you do this, you might harm yourself. You might get injured. So I'll try to sell myself like that. The gym trainer will try to sell themselves like, yes, you should hire me. You shouldn't do this by yourself. It's dangerous.
Mhm.
I mean, yes, that is true. But like for beginners, it's better to have a gym trainer. But over the years, if you just keep learning things, then you'll know things like, okay. yeah, to do it on your own. So the same for AI. But this whole idea about, I think it comes down to the how one's economic and political leanings are. But from what I think, like basically, I'm not against, I'm not for too much regulations or too much like controlling things from certain groups, especially not by businesses. Like they should not be lecturing people about what is ethical and not ethical. Like it is okay for, so they are saying, is it okay, it is okay for them to collect all this data for free and create a model, but now other people can use it. Only they know how to use it in a morally correct way. So yeah, in a harmless way. That is not the, I don't, that's not a good argument for them. So in summary, what I'm trying to say is that their original intention is to preserve their current market position and try to strengthen it. But like any businesses, they cannot outwardly say that. They have to uh, push it in a more friendly way. And this is how they're doing it.
Mhm.
What else?
Yeah.
Uh, I think yes, talking about bans, it also reminded me that even in our last session, I was talking about like this open weight models, whether they can be banned because US has already banned EVs and those kinds of things from China. Now, recently, it was like I got to know that US has also banned foreign robots, humanoid robots.
Yeah.
They've
I
banned.
just read it
So
today.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's not open source AI yet. They're not the AI part yet, but they have already done it. So that means, and they have not explicitly mentioned China, but we all know what it's all about because which country is creating all these humanoid robots? Advanced,
And I think
China.
it's not just humanoid robots, it's all like even it includes robot vacuums as well.
Okay. So yeah. So that
Yeah.
means,
I think
and obviously,
any
yeah.
any robot that has some intelligence and it can move and it is above 4.44 grams or some kind of limitation they've given.
Hmm.
So even robot vacuums are under that criteria. So those are also banned. Yes.
So it has already started. Like we just talked about this 2, 3 days ago, and it has already started. Like it's happening.
Mhm.
So I don't know whether open source AI will be banned or not, but if they have done this, I won't be surprised if it happens. Most likely will happen. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
So if you don't have any other point, I think the last few things to discuss about is some things regarding policy and regulations. So apparently there's this movement called Pacing Frontier AI. Basically, some tech employees are calling for an international effort to deliberately stop or pace the reduce the pace at which frontier model development is happening. So they are like the fear is that the progress will be so fast or so rapid that the autonomous capabilities of these models and the ability to recursively self-improve will outpace the capacity for the humans to have oversight on these models. So we as a society should first uh, prepare in whatever way. I don't have the details, but that is at least that is what their main point is. Maybe let's some bit of detailed.
this is the whole debate between effective acceleration versus decels, like EAC versus decel. Uh, I think I understand
Don't
this.
know what that is. Can you explain?
Again, like I heard this debate.
Okay, it's an open initiative launched this date from major AI labs to urge governments to build coordination tools that can safely slow down automated AI development. Core motivation: automated AI research warns that labs are nearing the point where AI can autonomously build and improve better AI, risking runaway capabilities. Coordination problem: individual companies cannot slow down on their own. Okay, that is without losing the competitive race to rivals. So one cannot just choose to slow down because they will lose out the race. So everyone has to stop equally. The petition asks the US government to support international technical and governance frameworks that make a temporary verified slowdown possible if risks outpace human movement or human oversight. The movement contrasts sharply with figures like Meta, who argue that advanced superintelligence should be widely distributed rather than controlled or slowed by smaller groups of institute. Yeah, I don't
This
know how
is
much ground or if even this will pass.
so in the next prompt you ask like is it related to EAC? Just E slash egg versus the is it related to E slash egg slash that
Backward slash,
no that the other slash
forward slash.
ACC versus DECEL debate DEBAT question mark.
Directly tied to the is effective accelerationism.
Realization wasn't
It represents a highly coordinated
other.
institutionalized push by the diesel faction. So this is which faction then? The Pacing the Frontier.
It's a diesel faction because they are trying to
Deceleration, okay.
de-accelerate. Yeah.
The core of the diesel philosophy is that advanced AI, specifically recursive self-improvement, where AI autonomously builds better AI, presents an existential risk that humanity cannot safely track at full speed. Okay. The direct
Yeah.
EEC counterattack argues that slowing down AI is dangerous. They believe rapid decentralized innovation creates abundance. Rapid decentralized innovation, okay, and the restricting progress concentrates dangerous power in the hands of a small cartel. But how this is it deceleration or decentralization? Because
Deceleration means
because if it is just talking about deceleration, why are they talking about decentralized innovation, like centralized innovation?
no, EAC means they want to accelerate.
Yeah, but where is this argument of decentralized and centralized coming from? Their point is that everyone should slow down at once.
Yes,
Here they're saying they believe rapid decentralized innovation creates abundance. So they're saying decentralized in a decentralized manner, all individual AI companies should progress in whatever capacity they can, and whoever is winning will, and in that manner, we will get the better AI product
yes,
because they are competing.
yes, but I think broadly that's the idea about them. So, like at the broadest one is that you should not try to avoid something that's going to happen. You're only going to make it worse. That's the point of EAC. I think there
Yeah, I
was
mean,
a
but if you compare it to like the nuclear technology and how centralized, in a centralized manner, the nuclear technology was controlled, it seems like in certain cases or situations, it makes sense to have a coordinated effort of having control of what the output is going to be.
I mean, that's the
Because
whole
this is,
debate.
yeah, because like at least my point would be from just seeing the few points here
Yes.
that the technology itself is it's of a different, it has a different what's the word, uh, effect on society. It's not like it's not any other kind of technology where you can allow competition to exist. I mean, I don't have a strong stance yet whether it should be stopped or it should progress, but I see the point of both of this argument.
Yeah, there's a video that debates this thing. Maybe later on your own you can summarize that and understand. But can you go to YouTube and let me show you that video what it is? Uh, just copy and paste that EAC versus DCell thing. Just
This one.
EAC versus DCell debate. EAC versus DCell debate. Copy uh, and say MLST,
Eh,
Machine Learning Street Talk or MLST. Yes, the second video. This is the
it's
video which,
almost 3 hour long.
yeah, that's a long video.
As I like
But I mean, that also means that this is a very extensive video between this. The one on the left is the acceleration is the one on the right is one with the long here is the deceleration is the decel whatever decel.
Okay.
So we can later on get the whole thing and get the idea what each of their stance are.
Yeah. There's a summary here. Primary fear: runaway automated AI acceleration outpacing human control. So Zuckerberg is EAC, or I don't know if is are this term like who is it a formal term or like how did it come up to be? Do you know?
I don't know the exact origin, but I think it's most like through social media, people just label each other the opposite, and that's how they became.
Okay. Centralized institutional control and government enforced cartels. Multilateral verified government mechanism to base research, open distribution to put super intelligent individual hands. But this EAC, this thing, the open distribution point, is seems to be the opposite of the their main argument that decentralized innovation, or is it?
Yes. It's a decentralized is open weight, so it
I
is.
mean, yeah.
It doesn't go against it.
So they're not against. So are they also against closed source models or the kind of? They're
Yes,
saying
there it says is the primary fear. Their primary fear is centralized institutional control and government enforced cartels.
this is a confusing kind of argument for me because if so they're against decels who are telling that the pace of, let's say, the pace of the AI development should stop, which would require a
Yes.
central body to stop all the AI companies. But all the AI companies are closed source, or the top AI company models are closed source. They're not giving any open weights, or most of them are not giving any competing or competent open weights to the public.
Yes.
So by their logic, if they want progress to continue, the AI closed source AI models will be progressing, not the open weights. The open weights are the we from time to time we do get the Chinese models, but
Yes. Yes. So I
if
think I don't know
by
what AI, what sources it has used to create these arguments here. So I
yeah,
think maybe you can go to that video and summarize that one in like short. Maybe see what argument do they make. Don't say just summarize, like you just say, ask about what's the argument EX versus the discuss main points, arguments, E cells from each side here.
the debate features Beth Jealous. Is it actually says the real name?
It's his like a pseudonym.
Okay. They represent the EAC movement and Cornell. Okay. EAC arguments, growth and thermodynamics. The core thesis is that civilization should maximize free energy dissipation over time, viewing growth as a fundamental objective for resilience and survival. Market dynamism argues that the market is a superior online adaptive search mechanism for technological progress compared to top-down model-based control. This I don't get this point. It contends that current AI safety discussions are being used instrumentally by a monopoly to achieve regulatory capture, which hinders innovation. I think then this they from this argument this seems like they are against the at least the closed source companies. Like
Yes,
by their own arguments, they should not be supporting Anthropic and OpenAI and such.
yes.
And by the
So
same argument, the DCLs are also not supporting OpenAI and
can you
Anthropic
see
and
what
such,
what they're saying here? Leahy argues that blind optimization,
and
letting
letting
it
it
replay to.
lead to predictability. As such, believe we have the capacity to design better, safer system rather than relying solely on evolution of market forces. Emphasize that technologies have massive existential scale that require boundaries, and that competition is not a sufficient safeguard for every domain. This is also sort of my argument. Realism over he challenges the acceleration belief in growth as a primary value, arguing that growth and human happiness values are distinct, that failing to account for specific is a failure of oversight. Competition is a useful tool. Certain powerful systems require deliberate enforced safety mechanism because they are not just standard market products. Yeah, I think more or less my initial gut is to for these arguments more. But I like both of the sides do not seem to be proposing or
Neither side are like like neither side are like from a pro big tech point of view.
yeah.
Like even in the I think maybe the last to last session when I talked about the power structure of USA, I talked about this populist thing. So there are two solutions, like the right-wing populism and the left-wing populism. Both will, so at its core, those are both about benefiting the general public in different ways.
Mm,
But what the rich people do is they try to hijack this movement for their own benefit. In this case, the big tech are trying to, I don't know who is it trying to benefit. Yes, I think big tech are most likely trying to use this diesel thing to keep uh, this high like this frontier research within their own labs, not among everyone else. So that they are trying to say that okay, don't do research because it is harmful. So we should do it properly in a controlled way. And who should we do this? We OpenAI, we Anthropic, we do this on behalf of humanity. We'll do it in a controlled way, and we will create a model and we'll sell it to you. But we are the responsible people. But we are the responsible citizens of this world. We are going to do this.
yeah.
This is how they are trying to do this thing. Okay, but okay, if you are genuinely diesel, okay, even if diesels are doing so, why is it not being done by uh, uh, so even diesel is okay as long as it is done by not a for-profit corporations like OpenAI or Anthropic. If it's an open like an university is doing it, or maybe government is doing it, it's fine. But it's not that. These are sneaking into this debate. This big tech, this big AI, new big AI companies are sneaking into the debate and trying to show that yes, we agree with diesels. We agree with diesels. We should decelerate. But who should do this control thing? We should do this control thing so that you buy our products. So in that way, they are trying to capture this whole thing.
Mm. They're trying to hijack this debate now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah,
So
we'll
that
have
is
to
why
go through.
even the whole movement is done by signed by AI. Can you go to that Google? Uh, those were signed by those big tech scientists, isn't it? Yes, Google,
Yeah,
Anthropic,
yeah,
Labs.
yeah. Employees from major AI labs.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's an then it really fits into my hypothesis, my narrative, my theory of how things are happening. Like they are trying to hijack this movement, like, okay, to their own benefit.
Yeah. At the same time, I also think like because they're talking about this bail coordination tools, so they are as a whole, you can say in one level of their own altogether. These are the nowadays the big AI companies,
And
suppose,
that's
but
the whole
but
definition
they
of
are
a
also
cartel.
competing. Yeah, but they're also competing with each other. One wants to outpace the other, but they seemingly want to build a coordination tool, so they know all where all of the other companies are in terms of their research. So then that doesn't really, at the end of the day, they would prioritize their own profit or revenue. But advocating for this, I don't know how much it really helps that.
No, cartelization definitely helps them because at least now there are three, four of them down. They can at least keep. That's the whole point of a cartel. The cartels means monopoly is one thing, like just only one companies exist. Cartel means like it's three or four like companies are in charge. So it's like no,
Hmm.
we don't have like uh, ideally what happens to a cartel? Like ideally each of them individually are thinking I could have been the only leader in this place, but that's not the thing. The next best thing is that okay, at least I can share this power among three or four of us instead of being a total democracy like everyone, and I'll just be a common citizen here. At least I would rather be in the top four equal people than be a regular common citizen having to stand in line and do everything. Ideally, I would like to be a monopoly, but the next best thing is to be part of a cartel instead of being a thing. So that's the thing that they're doing right now.
Hmm.
So I think it makes sense for them.
Yeah, I think if you say put it that way, it does make sense.
So
But
okay,
again,
just can
until
okay.
yeah, I mean, I was going to say until these things actually pan out, everything we say is going to be like a conspiracy theory only.
Yes, but cartels are not like that's the whole idea about how. Can you just
Not the
ask it
cartel, but
briefly?
the
Yeah.
actual intentions I'm talking about. Ask what?
Okay. Ask like are OpenAI Anthropic copy paste like OpenAI Anthropic trying to form a cartel in this scenario? Definitely, it will say no, but by hijacking the decel by just ask is it trying to be a cartel, become a cartel, and also say first briefly define what is a cartel.
Okay. In the context of pacing the frontier movement, the actions of OpenAI and Anthropic employers do not strictly meet the economic definition of a cartel, but critics argue the outcome could mimic cartel-like behavior. That's why it is not a cartel. Cartels secretly conspire to inflate corporate profits by restricting market supply. In contrast, this movement is a public petition by individual employees, not an official corporate agreement urging government intervention. The stated goal is public safety and preventing runaway AI automation. The cartel-like outcome. Critics, including open source advocates, argue that if government mandate a coordinated slowdown, it creates a regulatory cartel by establishing higher regulatory barriers that only massive established labs can afford to comply with. The policy effectively locks out smaller startups and open source competitors. Yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, any AI answer, whenever an AI answers a question, it will try to give a balanced answer, like both pros and cons. It will not, never directly say one thing. And the second thing is that from a realistic point of view, nobody just openly comes up to and say we are going to form a like a cartel. Specifically, not Western countries, because their whole narrative is that we are a like free market capitalist country, like it's open competition, so we'll never do this. But this is how it starts. Things start. This is how it starts. Like the most famous cartel is OPEC, like that the OPEC countries that are the like the oil producing countries. They restrict, like control the flow of oil in the whole globally, so that they can keep the supply and demand as per their needs, so that they can maintain the prices. So this is one of the most famous one, which we were taught when I was studying. So
Mm.
that's how it reminded me. These cartels are like the real economics concepts.
Yeah. Okay, then today I think we discussed a few variety of topics. I don't have any more points to make.
Yeah, even from my side, it's done.
Okay, we can stop.